Good morning. I've been seeing a lot of talk on social media about how to force the Kundalini awakening. Should I do it? How do I do it? Is it dangerous to do it? I want to do it. What steps can I take to make it happen? And also people being afraid and thinking they need a guru or somebody to awaken it for them, and seeking out help in order to do so. Kundalini energy is life force energy. Kundalini energy is prana. It's the same energy. The energy that flows through your body flows through all of existence. You can't force a Kundalini awakening, and you shouldn't force the Kundalini energy. It's when you force it that it becomes dangerous. Because the energy is moving through your body. And when you try to force it by imposing your ego and will onto it, you can misdirect it. And that's when it becomes dangerous. And yes, it could be overwhelming to experience Kundalini energy, because it's opening you up to the oneness of energy throughout all creation. But the energy in and of itself is not dangerous. It fills you all the time. You have life force energy, chi, prana, vitality running through your body all the time. Kundalini becomes awakened when you're ready to begin unifying with all of creation. But the energy is always there, and it's always moving. Kundalini energy has to rise all the way through all the chakras, through the third eye to the crown, to unify the physical body and your physical energy with the universal body and the universal energy. It's becoming one with the universe. But at the same time, it's also a very physical experience. It does exist within you. From my personal experience, there are 4 steps in a Kundalini awakening process, in a Kundalini rising process. The first step might be what you call awakening. First, you have to learn how to do it, that you can do it. Second, you learn to not do it and allow it to happen. Third, you learn to facilitate it, direct it, never control it, never force it, never push it, but work with it and provide your body what it needs, and your mind and your energy and your soul what it needs in order to become more aligned with the energy. And in the 4th step, I believe you actually become one with the energy. The energy has risen. And you don't even need to facilitate it anymore. It's just natural to flow with it. In phase 1, when you learn how to do it, this seems the most like what people are saying they want to jumpstart or activate. And sometimes this does involve learning how to do it, by which I mean recognizing that your consciousness does have an effect on the Kundalini energy flowing through you. Feeling it, noticing it, seeing that it's there. Realizing that when you think about a certain area, a certain energy center, you do activate the energy and do physically move it throughout your body. And I believe this step would be the most dangerous, if one was going to consider a step dangerous. Because while you're learning to do it, you could potentially do it slightly incorrectly. For example, when I was in my first awakening stage, I was sometimes frightened by the throbbing, the pulsing, the shaking, because it does physically move through you. It does exist, and it does affect your physical form. And your body has to adjust to be able to carry it. And what that means is that your body has to physically realign itself. And there were periods of time early on where I would try to physically manipulate my body. Where I would say, oh, I can see my eye is crooked, my ear is crooked. Let me try to massage it and push it in a certain direction. And I did push it in the wrong direction occasionally. And this is bad. And can get things cross-wired. And it's because you don't know what you're doing, so to speak, what it's doing, what it's trying to do. You don't know what connections connect inside your body. You don't know what muscle junctures and nerves are shifting around. And trying to manipulate them and force them to go in a certain direction is imposing your will on a divine force. That is the ego thinking that you can control the Kundalini energy. And you can't. You move with it. You can shape it. You can intensify it or lessen it. But you can't say, I want you to go here right now. Because that's not how it works. It has to make its way there, and there has to be prepared to receive it. So phase 1, learning how to do it, may involve some trial and error on noticing how the energy moves, and where your mind wishes to insert itself. And then transcending that ego state in order to reach phase 2, where you learn how to not do it. Once you realize that the energy is there and you can feel it, you can physically feel it within your body moving, you notice the sensations. Try to notice the sensations more fundamentally than you are. This is where meditation comes in. Some people say you don't need to meditate to activate Kundalini, and this is true. It's always there. It's always moving. Where the meditation comes in is separating the ego state and stepping back as a witness to the energy and the state of the existence of it. So you want to notice it on a more fundamental level. Say you think, oh, my ears hurt. Oh, I'm noticing throbbing in my chest. Oh, I'm feeling motion through my hips and knees. When you meditate, you're relaxing your consciousness and allowing the existence the opportunity to move, and that's when you'll notice the motion. But notice the motion and try to mentally look at it as internal motion. Look at it. See in your mind's eye, by feeling, I guess, if I was going to describe how it actually works. Feel it. Try to feel it more precisely. So notice not just, oh, my ear hurts. Where does my ear hurt? Internally, externally, behind it, in front of it. Where's the energy flowing? Is it flowing up and around? Is it flowing in and through? Where is it going? How is it going? Is it pulsing? Is it itching and crawling? Is it, just notice it, become aware of it. This is the point of phase 1, to recognize the energy that already exists and learn to relax the consciousness, to relax the body, to accept the energy and accept the realignment of the body that comes along with the flow of energy. In phase 1, I personally did a lot of research on the body, and I briefly summarized some of that in a previous video about physical and energetic states of the body. So check that out if you haven't seen it. It might give you a base idea of where to start feeling the energy. That helped me personally to visualize where the energy was flowing. It helped me to better grasp in my mind's eye what sensations I was experiencing. And this would be the phase where people start doing like yogic exercises, where they would say, draw up the energy, or bring the energy up to your pineal gland, or other things of that nature, where they're trying to direct the energy flow and get it to move up to the crown. Kundalini energy is described as being coiled at the base of the spine. and needing to rise. What this is, in my opinion, metaphorically describing is the snaking sensation that you literally do get of motion within the body once it starts to rise. And I've described in a previous video how you have to unblock each area and realign it physically in order for the energy to be able to flow unobstructed through that area. So, in my opinion, one couldn't simply draw the energy up immediately. And I believe that attempting to draw the energy all the way up immediately is where you're going to run into blockages and difficulties physically, because your body is not prepared at this moment in time to reach the end state of a full Kundalini rising and unification. You're in phase 1 of 4. So the exercises are beneficial in that they allow you to begin to see and feel and experience the energy within you. But the real takeaway from phase 1 is the learning of the energy, the beginning of the understanding of the energy, of the motion, of the oneness, of the realization that there is something else besides your mind, besides your will, that directs itself through the universe, and through you, and through everything that exists. The prana, the life force, the chi energy within your body is always flowing back and forth. That's why you're alive. It's the energy of vitality. It's the energy of life. The blood is flowing to your extremities. The nerves are sending signals to your brain. The energy is in there. And just your day-to-day energy is what one would consider prana. And prana is Kundalini. To say one has to activate Kundalini, Kundalini sort of activates itself. When your general life force energy begins unifying instead of being compartmentalized. It's always moving, and it's always trying to unify. I don't believe one has to awaken Kundalini. If it's spontaneous, then there's a point where it simply reaches the beginning stages of unification. And yes, I would say maybe there are people who never get there, because there's an element of conscious awareness of the fact that there is unification that has to be achieved. But I think that anybody who's looking, I think that anybody who's looking to activate Kundalini probably, and I'm not God, so I can't tell you, but probably already has Kundalini energy beginning to move through them. Because you're aware that it exists, You're aware that it's within you, and you're aware that it's interacting with your own life force fields. That's all that's needed to find Kundalini energy. The term makes it sound like it's something mystical and outside of you that you need to draw in. But it's already there. It's already within you. And phase 1 is just all about becoming aware of it. Noticing very, very small micro details of how it's moving. Feeling it. Being aware of it. And learning that you cannot tell it what to do. You align with the energy. The energy does not align with you. You align with your place in the universe. The universe does not revolve around you. In phase 1, you learn how to do it. If you're afraid, nervous, anxious, that's completely normal and part of the shift. Because you're feeling something you've never felt before. Your body is literally moving in ways it's never moved before. And it can occasionally be painful for your internal mechanisms to shift around within you. The best advice I would have for this is twofold. 1, get a general physical from a doctor. Make sure your heart is strong. Make sure your circulation is good. Get a blood panel. Make sure nothing's out of place that you need to actually deal with medically. Make sure your blood pressure is within a normal range. Just make sure your body is in a general physically fit state. And I'm not talking about peak optimal health, because you're going to get there through Kundalini. But what I'm talking about is making sure you have nothing in the immediate to worry about. And that will give you a certain sense of peace of mind. Because if you're worried, like I was, that it's so intense that your heart's going to give out, that it's so intense that you're not going to be able to breathe, that it's so intense that something is physically wrong with you. I mean, there were nights, to be completely transparent, when I would sit and I was so afraid that I would dial 911 on my phone and just leave the keypad there next to me just in case, because I didn't know. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know that it was going to be okay. And there was nothing I could do in that moment other than see it through and have faith that it was going to be okay. And allow for the possibility that if it wasn't, I could at least hit 1 and enter in the split second I would have. But phase 1 for me involved getting myself right with the Lord, so to speak. And that is a lot, I think, of what phase 1 is about. aside from the literal physical motion, phase 1 is very introspective and shadow work heavy, because it involves realigning your own energetic frequencies with this new state of being within the universal energy, and making sure that, for lack of a better explanation, making sure that your soul is as pure as it can be, making sure that you're as righteous as you can be in this moment, and making peace with the way you are. It's why people call it an ego death. And I would say the dark night of the soul, ego death, tower moments are all existent during phase 1 of Kundalini awakening, because they're necessary for the transformation process. And a lot of this channel will be devoted to that information, to helping people get through their shadow work, to helping people understand different parts of themselves, how you can recognize the fragments of your soul and your personality, and all of the teachings that you need to unlearn. And that's a big deal and a big process, and that's not what this video is about. But all of that is a big player in being able to come to this state where you simply can trust in faith. Trust in the energy itself. Trust in your beingness. Because that's all you can do. As I said, when I was experiencing those moments of fear and overwhelm from the energy, I would set my phone there as just sort of a backup measure, because that's all you can do is ride it out. This is the point where people try to control it, because what else are you going to do? If you're on a runaway horse, you're going to try to control it. But it's kind of like a runaway horse that's running home. All you need to do is stay on the horse. You don't need to tell it where to go. It's going home already. You just need to learn to stay on the horse. And in those moments, all you can do is ride it out. Have faith in the knowing that it's true, that that's happening to you and with you and in you and around you. And you don't need to stop it, and you don't need to start it. It's already happening. And once you've begun to align with it, and once you've recognized it, and once you've learned to feel it, and once you've learned where it is and where it's going and what it feels like when it's moving, and these things are best noticed in at least a somewhat meditative state, but they happen to you unconsciously all the time if you're already in phase 1 of Kundalini awakening. They're already happening. Anytime your body and mind are relaxed, you could be reading, you could be watching television or a movie, you could be watching this YouTube video right now. Anything that starts to get your mind into a sort of white noise state is going to take your conscious notice out of the way and allow your body the relaxation of control that it needs in order to do what it's going to naturally do. And you're going to feel it all the time. I mean, a full-on true meditative trance state just means clearing your mind. And anything that you can do to distract your mind, your conscious mind, is going to start to let your unconscious mind work with things. And you're going to see and feel that. So this is all part of the beginning. And you need to learn to witness the beginning. You don't force Kundalini. You don't tell it where to go. You don't tell it what to do. To think that you can tell the natural order how to be is the height of ego and hubris. You don't tell things how to exist. They simply exist. And it exists within you already. In phase 1, you learn how to do it. In phase 2, you learn how not to do it. How to not do it and allow it and receive it and feel it and be it and experience it and give it the room to do what it needs to do. It's much like phase 1, and you continue your shadow work and you continue your aligning and you continue to figure out how to bring yourself into alignment with this new way of being. But you're in a much more allowing and receiving state than you were in phase 1. Phase 1 involves recognition and transcendence of fear. And phase 2 involves more. It's just a heightened state. It involves more receiving, more allowing, and less doing. And once you've learned how to step back and allow it, by this phase you'll already be feeling the physical realignments within your body. And you're probably, because it rises from the ground up, you're probably going to be doing much work on your lower chakras. And in this area, you're going to be doing a lot of self-work. So phase 2 is a continuation of phase 1, wherein you're allowing the energy to influence you. And you're learning to be done rather than to do. Deepening of faith that God knows what He's doing and that the natural order knows what it's doing. That the divine unification of all things exists. And you're a part of it and you have a place in it. And it makes you. It makes up you. And bringing yourself into closer alignment with this state. First you learn to do it, then you learn to not do it, and allow it to be done. Then in phase 3, you learn how to facilitate it, how to direct it, never control it, never force it, never push it. Patient, gentle, accepting, allowing. These are key words for Kundalini flow. That's why it's called flow. Patient and gentle. Those are the first 2 words that I learned when this began. In the beginning, patient, gentle, don't push. In phase 3, when you're facilitating the energy, it's the best word that I can come up with, because you're not truly directing it in the sense of saying, go here now. You're facilitating it to go there when it's ready. So this is the phase, in my opinion, that correlates with a lot of law of attraction work, with, if you've ever heard the analogy of being on a boat in a river and learning to paddle the boat to get where you want to go instead of allowing the river to take you. Phase 2 is allowing the river to take you. Phase 3 is actually managing to get to the destination you're heading for by learning to maneuver your boat on the river. But you're still not controlling the river, even though technically you are the river and the river is in you. So it's a slightly flawed analogy, but it's a decent visualization. And that's why at some point you might actually metaphorically be able to get to destinations the river seemingly didn't go to before. I suppose metaphorically you could think of that as like dry riverbeds or something, because it's not like the river's never gone there before. It's that you've never been able to get there on this river before. So it's directing the energy flow, but not in a way where you're building a dam and like digging up the earth and destroying the environment in order to do it. It's more like rain, or like new springs opening, so that the river and your newly directed boat can flow to those new places, and those new places are now open to you. So phase 3 is facilitating it, and this is all metaphoric, so practically speaking, phase 3 is facilitating the energy flow. So within your body, you're actually learning in that phase to, this is where I would say you're learning in this phase to actually draw the energy upward. And it's, again, not so much that you're forcing the energy upward, it's that you're learning how that consciousness of effect that you noticed in phase 1 and then stopped doing by phase 2, because you don't know what you're doing. By phase 3, you kind of know what you're doing a little bit. And so by this phase, you are actually able to notice the energy and not pull it, but sort of draw it to where you need it to be. So in this phase, I would say it might be applicable again to begin going back to what you unlearned in phase 1 and relearn those things in a more applicable and appropriate way for the process. So taking those exercises that you maybe tried to do in the beginning, which were too forceful, and now that you know how to not be forceful, you can sort of meditate on the energy rising. and give it the space that it needs to do that. By phase 3, you would also be giving your body what it's asking for, because you've learned by now, you've learned in phase 1 and phase 2 to hear your body, to notice what it needs and what it wants, when you're thirsty, when you're hungry, when you're not actually thirsty or hungry, but it's just the energy of motion within your body, and you need to stop eating and drinking so much. Not like, don't drink, but I mean like, you know, sometimes you can be like, what is this? I have munchies. What is this feeling? My stomach is cramped. What is this feeling? In phases 1 and 2, you're noticing the feelings. By phase 3, you've learned what those feelings mean. And you're able to go, oh, I feel like I'm hungry. My mind thinks I'm hungry. But actually, what I need is to maybe lie down for a minute and just slow down my breathing. And this cramping feeling will go away, because it's not hunger, it's my stomach muscles contracting. It doesn't always indicate hunger. I think that a lot of our impulses are misunderstood and consciously misdirected into seemingly simple things that they actually are not. Which isn't to say that eating and drinking are not good, obviously. But by phase 3, you'll be eating and drinking, hopefully, what you've learned your body is asking you for. Before you eat and drink, I would say, ask your body, what are you hungry for? What do you actually want? And I've gotten to the point where it's like my body says, I need sugar. Because we're doing so much physical energy work within our body that your body literally needs active carbohydrate energy in order to function. The brain needs sugar in order to function. It's a requirement. It's just a physical, biological requirement. The body needs food in the form of sugar, and it needs water, and it needs oxygen in order to function. Sometimes my body just says, we need sugar right now. We need carbs. I think phase 1 and phase 2 probably involve a lot of trial and error on discovering what foods work for your body and what don't. What they do to you, what they make you feel like when you eat them. And you may find in the early phases that you reject things you've always wanted before, and that you actually do better without them. I practically stopped eating entirely in phase 1 because the energy was so intense. I just ate basic, I cut out everything, ate really basic sustaining foods. And by phase 2, I was discovering more high vibrational foods, so to speak, things that help to carry the energy, which can basically be described as, eating your colors. Lots of fruits. Fruits are so good. Sometimes my mouth wants to crunch, and it's not so much that I'm hungry, it's that this chewing motion is what's needed. And so I try to find things that I can chew on that aren't detrimental, like little raisins, or what else do I like to use? Chocolate chips. I'm big on chocolate chips because they have so many helpful little things. They have caffeine, and they help you have serotonin, and they're delicious, and they provide a lot of that individual little crunching motion for your mouth. And the diet that works for you is going to be the diet that works for you, which is why I can't tell you what you're going to be eating or drinking. But But what you're doing is listening. Listening to yourself, listening to the universe. Point being, by phase 3, you're learning to listen to what your body needs and to physically give yourself what you actually need in order to work with the experience. And all of these little steps that you're facilitating for your body will continue the allowance of flow of Kundalini energy. And during this process, you're working it up, it's rising. So you will actually physically feel the snaking motion. I've determined that this is why it's called a snake, because I have literally felt the skin slithering, so to speak. Like, sometimes it feels like bugs crawling when it's more tingly, but like in like a pathway sort of way. You'll feel it, and when you get there, you'll know. It's descriptive language, it's metaphoric language. So you'll also be learning what positions work for you physically, how you like to sit, how you like to stand, how your posture feels. You may notice a lot of, for me, I don't prescribe what my body should do. I discover what it wants to do. And you may notice a lot of spontaneous yoga poses just come out. And I think that's because that's how yoga was discovered and designed, is through the natural motion of the body and what positions work for certain areas, for certain intentions. Different mudras, holding your fingers in different ways. It's natural, it's a natural process, and I don't like to prescribe what my body should be doing. I like to see what it's doing and why it's doing it. And phase 3 is about facilitating that action. So you may find yourself getting stronger by this phase, feeling healthier, wholer, understanding who you are and what your purpose is and where you belong and where you fit in and where you're meant to be going, at least vaguely, because, you know, men plan and God laughs. But at least vaguely, you'll have an idea of who you are and what you're meant to do by phase 3. And I also think that in phase 3, you're integrating all of this energy and all of this new way of being into your lifestyle. Your life will be changing as you go through these phases, because you are changing on a fundamental level, physically and energetically, coming into alignment of self with soul and with spirit. That's what it's all about. Oneness and unity. We are one with all that is. It's this dense physical reality that keeps you from realizing it. So Kundalini energy rising and connecting is your literal harmonic resonance and your literal physical alignment coming into a more unified field with the rest of existence. And by phase 4, and I don't want to speak too heavily on phase 4 because I'm just, I think, about to enter phase 4 now. Like, I think I'm towards the ending stages of phase 3, so I don't like to speak on things I don't have first-hand knowledge of. But I did a tiny bit of reading just before this, and so I think from what I'm gathering and putting together and from my own experiences and where I'm headed, I would say phase 4 is about unifying, is about full rising, the full connection of physical and energetic, and being able to effortlessly integrate the energetic into the physical realm. To truly just naturally be one, fully and completely connected to the energy, and channeling it through yourself and your body and your actions all the time without effort. An effortless interaction and interplay of energy. Kundalini energy is not as mysterious as it may seem. It is natural to you, and everyone has access to it if you open yourself to it. Do not be afraid. Have faith, for God is with you. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. These words have meaning. Whether you believe in Judeo-Christian structures or Buddhist structures or Taoist structures, they're all the same. They're all the same energy, they're all the same intention, expressed in many different ways. Take the good, leave the bad, but find the truth and find the point in the words. The energy is natural, and you don't have to force it. You simply have to find it. And become one with it. Oneness is the point. Oneness is what we are. Balance, temperance, prudence, devotion, dedication, commitment, worthiness, understanding, compassion. These things are the point. Peace, love, and unity for all humanity and all creation and all creatures and all things. Two last things before I go. One, this is a long process. You don't just become enlightened and fully integrated overnight by doing one meditation. You do have to draw in, draw up, and integrate the life force energy throughout your body. And this takes time. The body must have time to rest, heal, restructure, and your mind and your energy must keep up with the process of rising and heightening the level of that energy within you and the amount of that energy that you're able to carry. I've been doing this for over 3 years, about 3 years, so I guess you could say it takes about a year per phase, but that's doing it as much as possible, all day, every day, all my free time. And I don't think that most people are going to be able to do that and maintain your daily life. So I think that if you're going to be going to work, going to school, proceeding forward in your everyday life and not devoting all your time to meditation and enlightenment, basically, then you will likely take longer. So that's just a little expectation warning, not to think that you're going to be able to run through all the phases in a weekend. This is a life transformation and a full body transformation to bring you into alignment with the highest vibration and frequency of the universe and life as a whole. That's a large undertaking, and historical accounts say that it can take a lifetime. But I do think that if you go out into the world, it will distract you slightly, and you'll have to get back into a state of passive reception and peace in order to allow the body to transform and accept the energy. And I think that if you were to come home every evening and put yourself back into a peaceful state of being, you can still do the Kundalini rising integration and reach the goal for which you're striving, but it may take a bit longer. Just want to set a good and clear expectation on that. I think that 3 to 4 years is actually a decent expectation if one were devoting all their time and attention to the project, the journey, the process, the learning, the becoming. Because Taoist accounts have told of, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but a famous king who went away into seclusion for 3 to 4 years and didn't come out of his palace until he was done. And that's about how long it took. And I've seen that same figure elsewhere before. So I do think that if you were going to dedicate yourself to it, that could be approximately how long it would take. But that's like all day, every day. And it is very physically taxing, so taking a break might be a good idea. But you do you. And the second thing I would like to mention is that I can only speak as a woman, and a receptive female at that. I don't know for a fact how this would translate to an active inclined person or to a male or masculine. It is possible, I allow for the possibility, that some people may find stillness through activity. And perhaps that the active state of using your physical energy helps to quiet the mind by exhausting the body, by expending all of the energy you do have and bringing your body into a physical active vibration. You may then be able to get past that to a place of receptivity and reception. That's not my way, but it may be a way. I'm not so cut and dry as to say there is only one way. But I do believe that rest and replenishment and interconnection are important for both the physical and mental and energetic bodies to come into alignment. Because while you're using your muscles, you can't relax them, and they can't move and realign. While you're using your mind, you can't listen and talk at the same time. You can't fully hear or feel the flow of energy while you're doing. It is, I believe, a receiving process, which is why I say that you cannot force Kundalini energy. You can move it, you can move with it, you can move on it, you can move through it, you can move it through you. But don't try to push it where it needs to go. And don't try to push yourself beyond your current limitations. Do transcend your current limitations, obviously. But don't force it. Never force it. Masculine or feminine, active or passive. Never force Kundalini energy. It is a rising and integration process. You may have a moment of enlightenment and realization in the beginning of phase 1, which I think might be a sign of your activation of the energy and the promise of what's to come. But that moment shouldn't be looked at as the end goal. That's it, I've achieved it, I had a moment of enlightenment and now I'm perfect and one with the universe. You are already one with the universe. You are already perfect in what you are. But to achieve perfect resonance and harmonic frequency and alignment with all that is, that's not a one-step process. So take the time to quiet the noise and hear the sound from beyond and feel the light and the river of flow. This is all I have for you today. This has been sort of a concept video more than a practical how to do Kundalini exercises video, but I do think it's important that you hear this message, and I hope my words have resonated. Thank you for watching. Like and follow me for more. I'll be making more videos like this, as it seems like that's what the collective needs at this time. And have a good journey, my friends. Shalom, aloha, namaste.